Hafa Day, and welcome to this episode of GCA Today. You know, there's been a lot of discussion lately with a new bill that currently lapsed into law. That is Bill 147-33. And what it does is it provides some weight restrictions on some of these commercial trucks on Guam's highway. And that was heavily discussed in a lot of our GCA meetings. And we have a committee meeting that will discuss that specifically sometime this week. And here to talk with me about that is the general manager of Stu and Hill Group, who also happens to be the vice chairman of the GCA board of directors, and also the board of directors for the GCA Trades Academy, Mr. Bill Beery. Bill, how you doing this morning?
Pretty good, James.
Good. As I mentioned, we talked about that bill for the weight restrictions, and I know that was kind of like in and out of discussion the last couple months or so, and it just, I guess, snuck underneath us. The bill passed, the legislature went to the governor's office, and he let it lapse into law, which is now in effect, should be in effect 60 days from the time it was, that time it lapsed.
Yeah, we kind of got surprised by the timing on it, but it was at our last board meeting we got into a pretty serious discussion and found out that it was going to limit, probably the best example, it's going to limit our concrete trucks to a maximum of 6 cubic yards per delivery. And what that's going to do, of course, is increase the cost of buying concrete and that sort of thing. And I don't think anybody really totally realized the impact of it. But once again, it was a federal highway rule that came down, and DPW and everybody's been trying to accommodate federal highways so that our federal funding continues, but it needs to be tweaked because we don't need to have that kind of restriction on our construction activity and trucks and so on and so forth. It's going to limit concrete trucks, aggregate deliveries, so on and so forth. And it needed to have another look at before it got implemented. I think it moved too fast.
No, I think the hot issue with that bill that was actually discussed was this thing called the bridge formula.
Yeah.
And it was a certain formula that's used as a standard in the U.S. for these commercial trucks that drive on U.S. bridges, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
And now that's going to be applied to Guam's roadways,
well,
not necessarily our bridge.
It's still the bridge.
Okay.
And we got bridges all over the place that we get driven on, but every state in America has modified, been able to tweak it, I call it tweaking it, to accommodate their particular situation. And I think that's what's missing here. It just kind of got implemented without maybe enough study or enough input, public input or GCA input into the process. So we've got a committee set up that's going to jump into it, or it has jumped into it, and hopefully we'll be able to
make some amendments.
Yeah, we're hoping. Yeah.
But that bridge formula was actually made for. I mean, there's a lot of those long span bridges in the U.S. made out of, steel mostly. Our bridges here are actually pretty much solid, reinforced concrete. Was that make a difference on how this bridge formula would be applied to Guam with the current bridges we have here?
I don't know, to be honest with you. I don't know the answer to that. I think the Federal Highway Transportation has all these rules that are generic for everywhere, and they need to be modified for the different areas. Typically, it's kind of like the hot issue we had a year ago was asphalt mix, and we always put a top coating on it because of the slipperiness of the asphalt. And that top coating was a real bone of contention doing our different levels of asphalt work. So, but I'm way over my areas of expertise here.
Right.
But hopefully our committee from the GCA board will be able to address this more smartly, and hopefully we'll be able to modify the legislation a little bit to make it work.
Okay.
But it's a very important effort we're into.
Yeah, and you mentioned economically, what this is going to do is drive prices up especially for concrete, and probably any services that are provided by
Trucks.
our local trucking companies that move dirt or aggregates and other material, even heavy equipment. I guess the whole point of the law was to extend the lifespan of the roadways here on Guam. I know a lot of the roads are warranted for like 10 years from the work that was done, and I don't know if they want to extend that another 10 years. And I don't know if that's possible, but it's the cost of maintenance is what it's supposed to, I guess, curtail, and that's the reason why they put this law into place. That was my understanding based on conversation with the DPW director.
Well, we've been getting millions and millions of dollars from Federal Highway for these improvements. You know, the new bridges down south, the new bridge over by Route 4 in Agaya, and all of that money has rules with it, you know, from the federal government. So we got to accommodate the rules, but admittedly those rules are geared to, you know, all over the United States, and they've got 4 seasons, they've got different types of aggregate, different kinds of issues, different kinds of construction than we do here in Guam. And I think we just need to, like we always say, Guamanize things a little bit. And I think it will work out, but it does require we need to do some work on our legislation.
Yeah. In talking to folks in the trucking industry and also in the ready-mix concrete, they were saying that defeats the purpose of the intent of this bill, because they wanted to reduce the weight of the load that's carried by these trucks, but it's going to probably take
more trucks
to deliver the product because of the reduced load, and so that's pretty much going to increase the amount of trucks that are on Guam's roadways, and that'll cause some wear and tear, and also becomes a safety issue for the rest of the drivers that share our roadways.
There's some middle ground there. You're right.
Yeah.
There's got to be some middle ground to hopefully solve this. Yeah.
Okay, and training. Let's go back to training issue. I know you were part of the GCA Trades Academy Board of Directors. Bert had a great transportation program training for those that are interested in working for companies doing the roadways and things of that nature. Is that program still in place that you know of?
I don't think it's still active funding-wise. Yeah. I don't think it's still being funded. No, the Trades Academy seems to be plugging along very successfully. We're up to, I think last month we had 160 some students actively, and we're well over 3,000 individuals have been touched by the Academy over the last 6 or 7 years. So the Trades Academy is making a definite impact on all kinds of professions, I call it.
And we're also seeing apprenticeship programs shoot to the roof, and that's from all these companies that are now indenturing their employees into the registered apprenticeship program, and they're getting some tax rebates for that, where before it was really hard to get a company to even submit one applicant for the apprenticeship program. Now we're seeing quite a bit of those going through the Trades Academy.
Well, Gov Guam has been very supportive of the training program, and I think everybody suddenly realized the positive impact that Gov Guam's credit program, what do we call that?
Guam Registered Apprenticeship Program.
And they're trying to capitalize on it.
Yep.
And so it's a good thing. It's good for Guam. It's the more people we get trained into our industry, it's always going to be a more better thing. So,
Bill, for the last 15 years that I've been at GCA, I've always known you to be a very optimistic person. So I know the answer to the next question, but I'd like to tell you, our viewing audience, what do you anticipate for the next year and maybe the year after that? What do you anticipate would be our construction projects and construction industry? What do you think it'll look like in the next couple of years?
Oh golly, I think 2016 we're going to get hammered pretty hard. I mean, it's a good thing. We're going to have Navy spending money, and outside the fence there's already a lot of money being spent. And it doesn't take very much, and we're already short of help. So anybody interested in getting in the construction business, now's the time to jump in. I think we're off to a very, very voluminous year ahead of us in 2016.
In your opinion, are we busy?
We're busy.
We're busy?
Yeah.
Okay. So that concludes today's program. Thank you, Bill, for joining me today, and we'll see you on our next episode of GCA Today. Have a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.